Given recent topics like book scams, piracy, and AI slop, it's reasonable to ask, what's the state of independent publishing? Is there opportunity for authors, or is the market in trouble? A recent study on how generative AI books compete with human-authored ones raises new concerns, but it also presents hope. Let's take a look. One thing to keep in mind is while the publishing landscape is constantly changing, which is scary, I don't think there's ever been so many avenues to getting your book in front of readers. So while there's legitimate concerns and it's easy to glorify some past perfect era of publishing, we're in an exciting time. Come on. Stop. Apologies if this recording is a bit disjointed. My upstairs neighbors returned from a trip with a vengeance and made recording impossible. I also forgot to put my lights on. And Tampy's upset. What's bothering you? Things are going great. The title of this academic paper kind of tells you everything you need to know. Generative AI floods and dilutes the market for books. AI can generate books at essentially no cost at a volume that human authors cannot compete with. But if this output is slop and no one wants to read or purchase it, will it affect the market? To test that hypothesis, the authors of this paper used AI detection software, Pangram, on 14,419 self-published genre fiction books sold on Amazon in a 3-year window. None of these books disclosed whether or not they used AI, and the study's benchmark for substantial AI use was 25% or more. They found that there's a lot of these AI books, but they tend not to sell well. However, they make up for that low return in volume, and some even manage to break into top-ranked positions. Over this 3-year period, the number of books for sale grew 19.2-fold, while quarterly revenue grew only 8.9-fold. So more books are crowding the marketplace, but revenue is not rising to meet that supply, which tends to shrink how much each book earns. That's a problem. Books with no AI are losing the most ground in genres that have the most AI competition. This is especially true on Kindle Unlimited, which has long been a major part of monetization for authors on Royal Road. Not only that, but top-rated AI books tend to incorporate distinctive language from other books, and the more of that they tend to have, the more they earn. That is not true for books without detected AI. Ultimately, this paper concludes that generative AI can reshape a creative market through scale rather than quality. And these results bear directly on the market effect question at the center of the fair use defense to copyright infringement. That part's very important, and a big reason why I wanted to cover this topic. We'll come back to it later. A lot of us deride AI use in this context. Who's going to buy or read slop? But there are plenty of communities online where people share how to turn a prompt into a finished novel. Because it costs next to nothing to produce or list these books, hundreds could be released in the time that it would take someone to write a single novel. And since disclosure isn't mandatory, brief previews might not be enough context for readers to be able to discern what's AI and what isn't. One example they provide of someone reaching scale with AI-generated novels is Coral Heart. This is her website, and I think it's pretty telling that this is more about services than the books she's releasing. Even if she sold 50,000 books out of her catalog of 200, it seems like she's mostly trying to sell speaking appearances and guides of how to do this. But we want to understand the effect of the market as a whole, so let's take a deeper look. As mentioned earlier, this paper is focused on self-published genre fiction sold primarily on Amazon, since that constitutes the bulk of US book production, totaling 3.5 million in 2025, which is a 38.7% rise over 2024, and accounted for roughly 84% of the 4.17 million books released that year. That's incredible. The low cost of entry for platforms like Amazon are why this is possible. Genre fiction is especially vulnerable because its readers come back for the same tropes and a steady stream of new books, which is exactly what Gen AI is designed to do. The authors separated the 14,419 randomly selected books into 3 categories: no AI text, light AI text, less than 25%, and substantial AI text, more than 25%. Again, they used Pangram to make that determination. A separate study has found that books that are flagged as AI have lower rankings and weaker sales. That one only used samples to make that determination. This study is using the full text. When a large supply of cheap-to-produce titles enters a market faster than sales, revenue, and top ranks available to absorb them, the return and attention left for the average title both fall, which means the market is being diluted. And the reason why I identified this part as so important is that market dilution is a key part of determining fair use, which is something the judge in the Meta case singled out as an important factor. It doesn't matter if using existing books to train large language models is transformative if the market is diluted by that output. The data supports that this dilution is occurring and affecting the market. I also think it's worth emphasizing that the most successful AI books incorporate the most language from existing books. I think that further undermines that they're genuinely creating something. AI books have infiltrated every genre, but tend to have weaker sales. Books with substantial AI text make up 20% of all books in their sample, but earn only 12.1% of sales and 11.3% of revenue, while books with no AI text account for 62.9% of books and a larger 71.7% of sales and 72.5% of revenue. Books with light AI detected fall between the two, accounting for 17.1% of books and a near equal 16.2% of sales and 16.2% of revenue. So the shortfall in sales can be attributed to excessive AI. Those discrepancies only become more stark at the top of the market. Despite AI books selling weekly on average, their growth is accelerating, from near 0% in 2023 to 20% of the market now. Their share of the top 25 ranks is also increasing, and their presence is causing more churn. Here are some charts to help visualize this data. These show the growth of substantial AI in specific genres. As you can see, in every genre, there's been significant growth in the past 3 years. Despite that, AI's presence at the top of the charts, while significant, remains more muted. What's unfortunate is that AI is claiming more of the market to the detriment of human authors. And the more diffused AI is within a genre, the bigger the share it's going to get. In fact, there was only 2 genres that escaped this effect. Sci-fi broke about even, fantasy is the only one that grew. Chart D shows that this is true overall. It's not only the AI books that are losing revenue, all books in those genres are. Again, fantasy being the only exception, which I suppose is good news for the series that I'm writing. But I think that's primarily a case of AI not being especially good at writing complicated stories. As the technology improves, that gap will shrink. All of this supports the theory of dilution of the market. It declines where exposure is high and holds steady where it is low. Here's a quick look at some of the top earners using AI in each genre. Romance seems especially saturated, perhaps thanks to Coral Heart. I found these charts on rare expressions fascinating. Some examples the authors provide of rare expressions are cheekbones more pronounced, the shadows beneath her eyes deeper. The question circled his mind like a vulture. Cross my eyes and puff out my cheeks like a demented chipmunk. And my stomach flip-flopping like a fish out of water. These expressions route meaning through touch, smell, and visceral sensation. The authors even suggest that that kind of language might be a tell for AI, claiming that AI overwrites the body and senses, conveying feeling through physical sensation and environment while rarely labeling emotion explicitly. These kind of sweeping claims are a little dangerous. It's important to recognize that there will be exceptions, especially in an era of show, not tell. But from a broad perspective, that makes a lot of sense to me. AI is going to struggle to replicate the emotion of human experience, since it's never experienced that. Like the 40-year-old virgin describing boobs as bags of sand. Anyways, back to the charts. When comparing the top 50 AI to no AI, you can see that there's a significant gulf, which shrinks as you move down to the top 200. And to me that implies that the more AI is directly lifting, the more compelling it is for readers, which weakens the argument that it's truly transformative. And this final chart puts all of that into context. At least in respect to literary awards, we award original writing. There's a huge gap even between human-authored work. Overall, I like how this paper focuses not on whether AI is good enough to pass as human-authored work, but what effect a lot of it has on a market. Its influence is already hurting the earning potential of human authors. And that impact is especially felt in genres where AI has diffused the most. This is a clear example of market dilution, and needs to have bearing on court cases. In the Meta lawsuit, the authors failed to make this argument. The focus was instead on how AI models were trained. And much like how copyrights could be potentially weaponized against AI, since registered works require a human author, using market dilution to undermine fair use arguments might be effective. So that's where the hope part comes in. It's easy to see the numbers from that paper and despair, but I think major changes are on the horizon. I wouldn't be surprised that if in a year, things look totally different, especially since the cost of accessing AI seems to be skyrocketing. A big reason there was such an explosion of AI-gen content is because it was essentially subsidized. Tech companies wanted us to become dependent on it. And I don't think that played out exactly how they thought it would. That's true with data centers as well. After such a dense and academic discussion, I think we need a palate cleanser and see how these trends affect the whole. Self-publishing is booming. Its share of the market hit $2.16 billion in 2025, growing 16 times faster than traditional publishing. Take that, agents who ignored my query letters. And the self-publishing market is projected to reach $6.16 billion by 2033, nearly tripling its 2024 size. There's never been a better time to be an independent author. However, one thing is clear. There's a lot of competition. While earnings are up, there's still a long way to go before you could afford to live off of them. Even making $1,000 a year means you're killing it. I hope to see this elite 5% group who are earning a livable wage increase, but there are also signs that independent authors are starting to outpace traditional ones. A big part of success comes down to marketing. Oh no. Audiobooks are another key area for growth. That's something I'm much more excited about. I'm actually debating whether to release my ebook and audiobook at the same time. That way you could do cross-promotion shenanigans and offer a package deal discount. So how do you take advantage of opportunity in the self-publishing world? This article has a great guide. It breaks down the process into phases. You start off by publishing an ebook and paperback formats. This is non-negotiable. Those two formats cover the broadest readership, especially paperbacks. Next, you add audiobooks. Given my background in sound, I'm really excited about this step. I might even go into full-time audiobook production. We'll see how it goes. Phase 3, go wide with your release. Personally, I don't think the exclusivity of Kindle Unlimited is worth it anymore, especially with the influence that AI is having on it. I'm a big proponent of Kobo, I hope to use it, and I want to see my book available in libraries. An email list is the best direct conversion for a sale. You need to build that up, myself included. Once I get my act together, I'm hoping that many of you lovely viewers will join my email list. I promise that I'm too bashful to shamelessly spam you. Premium formats like hardcovers or collector editions are another way to diversify, but don't jump into that too quickly. And once you get a backlog of about 5 books, you can get into direct sales. Since I'm not ready for that yet, I'll explore that in a future video. Joey, the author of this article, even provided a nice chart of benchmarks. After I wrap up serializing my trilogy, I'll circle back to these topics. Serializing my trilogy, you say? What a seamless seg. I'm kind of limping along in respect to growth, but views are way up. Also, I still haven't ran a second ad campaign. Mostly, I've just been focused on finishing the damn thing, and wrapping everything up in a satisfying manner is really hard. My backlog is also starting to shrink, so I'm getting a bit nervous. But worry not, dear reader, it's the home stretch. I'd like to shout out the Iron Cradle Saga by J.E. Payne. I assume it's not je, like the French pronoun. The Worst Kobold by Thalas. And I Reincarnated as a Dragon with a Devourer System by Guilty Veil. With all this opportunity, are you going to publish a book, Tambi? I'll let you know if she does. See you next video.